If you are a first-time homeschooler and you are just overwhelmed at the thought of choosing a curriculum and you're not sure where to start, or you've homeschooled before but you just never really found the right fit for your curriculum and just never felt like you had a good system to choose curriculum, stay tuned for this video because I'm going to share some of my favorite and best tips and tricks that I have used along the way. Hey everybody, my name is Lauren. I'm a homeschooling mom of 3 girls, 5th grade, 3rd grade, and 1st grade. We are going into our 5th year of homeschooling. I cannot believe it. It feels like we just started, but we are approaching year 5 pretty quickly. So I am going to reflect a little bit, go down memory lane, and recap my thoughts and feelings and what I was going through my very first year of homeschooling. So our very first year, I was very excited once I realized, like, this is it, we're gonna homeschool. I did what I had to do as far as getting my kids signed up. And then I said, okay, well, what are we gonna use for our curriculum? And let me just tell you, overwhelmed was, I don't think, a strong enough word for how I felt when it came to curriculum. I just felt like there was seas and mountains upon mountains and an endless amount of curriculum options to choose from. And I just remember being like, how does anybody know? Like, how would you even begin to start this? This is so overwhelming and intimidating and daunting. And I am excited about homeschool, but I don't know where to even dive in or begin to scratch the surface. So very first I realized, okay, there's some approaches to homeschooling, which is like unschooling and Charlotte Mason and traditional and classical and unit studies. So I took this little quiz and I scored highest on, I forget which one it was, but unschooling was up there. And I was just like, after years of homeschooling, I just find that very laughable because it's like, I'm totally not an unschooler. Not that there's anything wrong with it. It's just not my cup of tea. And so I don't think a quiz is probably going to give you the most accurate information. So I'm going to share some things that just have really helped me to figure out and kind of navigate the waters, stuff that I've learned along the way that just I have found helpful. Take what works for you, and if some of this doesn't work for you, obviously you don't have to abide by everything I'm saying. I'm just sharing what's worked best for us. First, you want to get a list of all the subjects that you want to teach your kids. Obviously, you're going to have to teach, depending on their ages, there's going to be some sort of language arts, whether you're teaching them their letters or how to read, or they're older and they need grammar and those principles, writing. So language arts and math, those obviously are going to be 2 that you really need. You can't get around those. Now, some people live in a state where their 1st grader is required to do history and science. And if that's you, then you'll have to add those to your list. Some people have requirements for what they have to do. My state's pretty flexible, so I didn't have to do that. So if your state requires certain subjects, then that kind of makes it a little bit easier. You know, okay, I have to do these subjects. And then if I want to add on my own, I can do that. If your state just kind of leaves it up to you, then you have that discretion for what you want to do and a little bit more wiggle room. So once you have written down all the subjects that you want to focus on for this year. Now, this is not groundbreaking or earth-shattering, but I would just literally type into YouTube. I binge watched so many YouTube videos that summer. It was insane. I would type in, let's say you have a 1st grade and you want to do language arts. 1st grade language arts curriculum. And I would just go through each of the videos that came up. And if something stuck out to me, I would see if there was any more videos about that and kind of just narrow it down that way. Once I found a curriculum or 2 that interested me, I would go on their website, kind of figure out what the cost is, how involved the teacher, what components all came with it. If this was actually something that was doable, I would look at the samples, and if they didn't have a big enough sample, I would go back to YouTube and look and see if there was any flip-throughs. Those flip-through videos were amazing because you really get to see a real in-depth look at them. Now, I've never done this before, but I know a lot of moms go to homeschool conferences, and those are really cool because you can actually see the curriculum in person and flip through and get a really, really good idea. That's honestly the best way to do it, is if you're able to see the curriculum, live and look into it for yourself. Now, not everybody is able to go to a homeschool conference, but if you are able to, I highly recommend that. And that way you can really get a good picture of what's out there and what's available to you. Another thing that I do is I take, and I still do this to this day, is I take the Christian book catalog. If you have never ordered anything from there, you might not have one, but if you've ever ordered from there, they'll send you one. I'm sure you could request a catalog, but from there, I just go through the catalog. It's an old school style. I don't order through the catalog. I will order it online, but I go through and I just read the description of any curriculum that stands out to me, what I'm looking for specifically, and I circle it or put a bookmark on that page, and then I go through and I will look it up on Christian Book or on their website and see if it's something that fits as well. I would suggest just doing one or two subjects like that at a time. I wouldn't try to do it all at once or try to figure it out, all in a day. Take your time. It's a process, especially if you are just starting out. Please know you are not alone. And if you feel like this is way too much and I'm overwhelmed, it's okay. That's absolutely normal and to be expected. You're just going through the beginning phases of it, and it's okay. It eventually will become a lot easier and you will become more familiar with it, and it won't be as intimidating as it seems right now. So just hang in there. Okay, so I said several times, depending on how I felt about it or if it felt like a good fit. That is something I actually want to hone in on and zero in on pretty specifically. So something I learned pretty early on, you don't have to go with just the first thing that you see or learn about for curriculum. If you can relate to this, let me know down in the comments. But it's kind of like an aha moment, yes, this curriculum looks amazing. It checks all my boxes. I think it would be a great fit for my kid. I actually want to teach it, because you have to consider that as well. Do you actually want to teach this? And you'll know it when you see it. If it's a curriculum where it's just I really don't want to do this, but I think that I should, or I think that I have to, or I guess this is really the only thing out there, I would just say that's an X, an automatic X. Go with something that you have a really you just get that feeling. You just know it. You know it in your gut, this I think would be an amazing fit for us. With that said, that doesn't guarantee that once you actually get into it and use it, that it will always be a good fit. There's that as well. But that's just part of homeschooling. There's trial and error. But if you're initially not really even liking it and you're kind of just oh, I should get this just because my friend told me that this is a good curriculum, or I saw this person's video and they're excited about it, and so I think maybe I should just go with that. I can say from experience, please don't do that. Do get what you think is sparks. I don't want to sound like Marie Kondo or anything, but sparks joy when you see the samples and when you see videos of it and think about using it and implementing it into your homeschool. Now I have some curriculum don'ts. Some of this is going to tie back to what I was just saying a few minutes ago, but first, number one, don't choose a curriculum just because so-and-so said to use it. Don't not choose a curriculum because so-and-so said don't use it. What works for somebody might not work for you. And just because something doesn't work for someone else, they had a terrible experience with that curriculum, doesn't mean that you won't have an amazing and awesome experience with that. Nobody should be telling you what to use. Now, you can ask their opinion and say, hey, what do you think about this? But if someone is telling you point blank, use this curriculum, use that curriculum, I just don't know if it's always going to work out, because they don't know what's best for you and for your kids. Next is don't choose curriculum because it seems to be popular or it seems to work for everybody else, and you just think that it has to or should work for you. It might not. Again, every single thing that you buy, look at the samples, look up videos on it, do research on it. Don't just buy something on a whim or something that is told to you or something that you've heard about and works really well for a lot of people. It doesn't matter how many people love it, how popular it is. If it works for every single other person in the planet, it may not be for, it may work for you, and if it does, that's fine, but it may not, and that's okay. Again, it's just going back to what is going to work best for you. Don't do curriculum and subjects just because you think you should. Again, going back to my very first year, I think your first year is just the biggest learning curve. At least that's been my experience, and the experience from many other people I've talked to is like the first year is the biggest learning curve where you're just learning because everything's brand new. So my first year, I thought I had to do it all, this amazing, extensive, glorious morning basket. I had a first grader, a preschooler, a 2-year-old who screamed the entire time I homeschooled. She was normally a really good baby toddler, but during homeschool, those hour and a half, 2 hours, it was her time to shine. So she screamed every day for like the first 3 or 4 months. But anyway, I remember watching videos of like morning basket, and there was these elaborate morning baskets. And first, again, my first thought was like, how do these people choose like which books to get? I don't understand, like, of all the thousands of books there are, how do they choose? So that was first number one. And then second was, well, I guess I have to do this. I incorporated all this stuff, and it was just way too much. It was not necessary. Does it mean it was bad? No, of course not. It just, for that year, for that season, it just didn't fit. You'll always obviously have to do the math and the language arts, but maybe pick and choose, especially if you have younger kids and your state doesn't have requirements of what topics you're using. And even if they do, it can be very, very simple. Maybe just focus on science one year and history the next year, or don't do any science or history. Again, if they're very little. If they're older, it's going to be a little bit of a different circumstance. You don't have to do poetry tea time and art and music and all of those other things. And if that is something that is important to you and you do want to focus on, then you can figure out a way to add those in. But don't feel like you have to do every single thing every single year. And don't compare yourself to, especially if you are, first year homeschooler, second year homeschooler, someone who's been homeschooling for 10 years, 12 years, who've been doing it and kind of know a little bit more and or more seasoned in this and are just a little bit more comfortable with the process. Don't compare yourself. Just take it year by year, subject by subject, child by child. And then lastly, I get this isn't a homeschool don't, but I have gotten this question multiple times before, is that in my curriculum videos, I will say something about how like my daughter wanted to do this or that, and or she chose this or that. And the question is, do you let your kids choose their homeschool curriculum? And the answer to that is yes, but I don't just like take the Christian book.com catalog and throw it at them and say, okay, you're on your own, tell me what you choose. What I do is, again, every single year, I get a piece of paper, I write their names down. I still do this to this day. I write down every single subject that I want that child to do, and it's going to look different for each year. And then I do our research on that, language arts. We know this worked with us, so we're just going to stick with the language arts. Spelling, that wasn't so great, let's find a spelling. And I go through every single list. So once I have narrowed down the options to maybe 2, 3, 4 options of things that I think is going to be a good fit for, for me and for my kids, then from there I'll show them, here's the 2, 3, 4 options, whatever it is. Which one do you like the best? Which one do you think would work for you? And then from there, that's how they choose. So again, it's not me just throwing 20 different spelling options at them. It's me narrowing it down to, okay, if they chose this one, or this one, these 3, that would be okay. That fits my budget. That fits what I think would work for their learning style, and et cetera, et cetera. And then from there, those 3, whatever they choose is what we'll go with. Now, again, I don't use this for littler kids, like my first grader, my youngest. I just say, okay, you're gonna do this one, okay? And she's just excited, like she doesn't care what she uses. She's just happy to do books. But my older ones, especially I feel like 3rd grade and up, I get their say-so in pretty much every single subject. And I just do that process for every subject, find it, narrow it down, and then let them choose. And that way, that gives them a little bit of autonomy, a little bit of say, a little bit of control in what their homeschool day looks like, rather than just me saying, okay, here's some books, this is what you're doing this year. They get the anticipation, like they feel excited because they get to pick it out and they get to choose. And then when it arrives, they get more excited because it's something that they know and that they can look forward to. And it just helps throughout the school year, I think, because it's something that they feel like they had a hand in and a say so in. So that is how I go about choosing curriculum from the beginning of my homeschool to kind of how it works today. Just going into it with a mindset of this is where almost every single other homeschool mom started out at the beginning. She felt like this just like I do. And I think just having that assurance of like that we've all been there. A lot of people are still going through what you're going through right now, and you won't always feel like this. I promise it will get better. If you have any questions though, please feel free to leave them down below. If you want to email me or send me a message on Instagram, whatever, however you want to contact me for a more one-on-one. I obviously gave very general guidance today. I wasn't like choosing this and this. I didn't give specific curriculum choices because that's not what this video is about. However, if you are interested in what some of my favorite curriculum is, I will link that video right here so that you can check that out. I thank you so much for watching and for being here. Again, if there's any questions, leave them down below. Please give this video a like, a thumbs up if you found it to be helpful. Subscribe if you have not done so already. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.